so often struggling through the valley experiences, they feel like forever. And then when I get to the top of my mountain, I'm like, oh, nice view. Okay, gotta go. Rather than sitting here and enjoying the view.
No, I needed that one because I was really like when she talks about like sharing her book with her family first. Like today was I woke up in the middle of the night with our last episode. Like I did not want to put that out there. Remember?
But I told you you didn't have.
um, I know, but I already felt bad because of this. Having to reschedule this. I'm like, here I go again. It was the only other one we had, so I didn't know what else to do.
I thought we
And
could have
so
recorded it.
I woke up in the middle of the night and took some more stuff out. Like we're filming the after show now. So if there's more that was in that story that I deleted because I felt like it's not all my story to share, and I feel like it's one thing to be transparent about things that I've done or things that I've been through, but sometimes sharing someone else's story that have impacted you, I feel like isn't always fair, especially when they're not there to tell their side. And so it was really, really a tough day for me all day today. um,
Oh, sorry.
so I needed that just to hear how she talked about, because of the way that we were brought up in the church, like we don't tell our business, we very shut off with sharing, because you want to present yourself in a way that is godly and that is, together. And so to hear
Mm,
her talk about, especially, I think that people are more blessed by transparency and authenticity
yeah.
and, your testimony than you looking like you have it all together, of course, so I definitely need that book in my life because it's something that I'm really still working on. And not only that, I'm very much an empath in that I really, really care about how I make people feel, especially my family. My family is my everything, and I live here with them and have to see them every day and don't want to ever make them think that I don't love or cherish them or appreciate them or that I'm
Yeah.
harboring old feelings or things because I'm very much healed from those things. But for a long time, I wasn't. So that's why I shared that. So,
And it can be hard for parents to hear, your perception of your experiences as a child witnessing the things that took place. You know what I mean? So as a
yeah.
parent, I get it. It's hard to,
Hmm.
but it's also like we have to realize that it's your perception. It's how it impacted you is how it impacted you, and I can't really do anything about it, right? I can only say I'm sorry. Didn't mean to hurt you.
Yeah.
Was
But as a parent, do you want to, you don't want to feel that you put your
feel that
child in that position either. Yeah.
you don't want to, but maybe because I've been through counseling or whatever, I have now realized like I'm not a perfect mother. I've wounded my son,
Hmm.
and even thinking about it makes me emotional or whatever. But it's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
Most of our wounding comes from our parents.
Hmm.
So as a parent, I can't sit here and say that I've not wounded my own son. Of course I have.
Yeah.
Every parent wounds their child, whether
Some way.
it's never
Intentional.
intentional. It's because we don't know better sometimes. It's sometimes the learned behaviors that we learned as a kid from our parents, or it's from our own hurts that we're trying to maybe protect, but yet we're hurting. It's like I think you see sometimes like when you're trying to protect the baby and you're like smothering them, but you suffocate them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I get it. It's but so many people, because you're sharing, what Mona's sharing, are going to be blessed, and I think where we are in this day and age now, it's like we really have to stop thinking. I know we live in a culture of picture perfect, but if we really think about it, everyone knows that's fake.
Hmm.
Everyone knows that that's not life. Everyone knows that and more people appreciate when you show after having a baby coming out and you still look a little pregnant. Okay? Because that's what happens.
People want to see your stretch marks, okay, so that they can show theirs too.
Exactly. Cellulite, like my mom has this big thing about cellulite. She like flips out about cellulite. She don't want to see no cellulite. But people have it,
Yeah,
and it makes us that much more relatable because if I constantly am going to be looking to you, you're not relating to me. You had a baby, you have no stretch marks, you have no cellulite, you've never stood up late in the middle of the night, baby's never pooped all over up to his ears or whatever, it's like, come on,
yeah, yeah,
this is not real. And as much as, people try to airbrush and do all these things, what's most accepted and what's most appreciated from people, what makes people most successful is being authentic, or what some people would think being a failure, right? In order to be successful, you have to fail. That's just the way it works, you
mhm,
know. Jordan says how many Michael Jordan talks about how many times he failed before he actually met Albert Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Edison, all of these great people failed. But for
yeah,
some reason in our brains, we don't want to fail. But if you don't fail, how can you succeed? you know so I hope that we're changing the message. And like I said, like with the church earlier, about back then the church was so, and people in the church can still be very judgy. That's where the most wounding does happen, is in the church, right?
yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I feel like there is a new wave of the church that is, more accepting, that is more truthful. I feel like a lot more pastors and leaders are being true about the things that they've done, the things that they are experiencing, the things that they're going through. Because a
Right.
lot of the time it looked like, excuse me, pastors didn't go through much, like everything was great in their lives. Um, and I'm so grateful, we talk about, I feel like we do say a lot of negative things about the old church, but I'm very, very grateful for the foundation that it's given me, because I know that it's like you said, like the Bible says, train a child in the way they should go and they won't depart. I very much believe that for my life, because
Yeah.
I know like everything in my relationship with God now is due to everything that I've learned throughout childhood. So I'm grateful for that. I learned so much. I was very blessed in my church. But I think regardless of whether or not you are saved as a kid or as an adult, you still have to go through establishing a relationship for yourself. And I
Mhm.
think that one of the benefits, um, there's pros and cons to everything, but one of the benefits that we were talking about with, an adult who gets saved, is a newly saved adult, is that they come in, working on that relationship, whereas we come in learning what we're taught. Like we're, as a kid, you're regurgitating what your parents say, or you're regurgitating what your Sunday school teacher says. But when you come as an adult, you're coming in with an idea, like I have to establish this relationship myself. So maybe that could be part of why it looks different when I see my friends who are newly saved that are just so like excited, because I probably had that excitement when I was 13, or, so that's the difference. But I'm so grateful because I know God because of the time that I've spent with him. So like she said, God was just the homie, like he was just Uncle God or whatever. But no, I'm so, so grateful now to be an adult and actually establish a relationship for myself, outside of what I was taught in the church.
Yeah, listen, I don't knock the old church. I didn't grow up in the church, but I have great honor for the old church, and I think
Mhm.
that there are some things in the old way of the church that still, I think, should still keep coming forward and moving forward. I didn't grow up in the church, but my father did have principles of whatever happens in these four walls stays in these four walls.
Mhm.
You do not go outside and tell
Our business.
on here. You I remember when we would go for family gatherings, my dad he wasn't strict. He wasn't strict, but he, let us clown around at home or whatever. But when we went to family gatherings, there was no back talking.
Right.
He says something, do it. He told you to go sit over there, sit over there.
Right.
There was no funny business going on. We go down to the store with my mom. She literally have our hands on our head. Don't touch nothing. Put your hands on top of your head when you go through the store so that you don't touch nothing. Um, but but then going into the church, it's like the same thing happening in the church. Like people don't want to talk about the things that happen in the church, and I can relate to it in some ways. It's like I get it, but like I said, it has pros and cons, and I think maybe more stuff coming out, because I think also some of the churches were coming from a very religious background, and they were very I know, like Pentecostal. My old church came out with Pentecostal background, and women didn't wear makeup, didn't wear pants, didn't wear jewelry or anything like that, and they thought that was the right way.
Right.
And obviously now it's not the
Mhm.
right way. So it's funny for me because I have friends who grew up in this Pentecostal upbringing, and now I see their moms and they have false
Jeans.
lashes and jeans, tattoos, and
Uh-huh.
red lipsticks and highlights, and I'm just like, man, I remember
Yes.
I remember when I would come to the house with my red lipstick and my hair done, and I have my mini skirts on, and they'd be like,
Right.
holy water, throw it at me, and now
Yeah.
walking the
Yeah. We were, it's funny because we could wear pants to church and it wasn't that strict, but we couldn't wear pants on stage because I was like on the dance team and I was on the choir. Women could not wear pants on stage. I remember we were just talking because we were playing Kirk Franklin on the way back from New York, and we were like, we weren't allowed to sing these songs in church. I remember my pastor's wife was like, "There's no Bible in this Revolution." We wanted to dance to Revolution,
stomp.
Kirk Franklin. So yeah, those were some of the things in the Pentecostal church. But again, we had a ball. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I really had a fun time in church. Our church was pretty lit for the times, considering like how most Pentecostal churches were. We had like slumber parties and like the girls would do a lot of stuff. We'd go roller skating, and so it was a good time. My closest friends, like I have a core group of sisters that we all grew up in church together. And I didn't have friends in school really. Like my friends were from church. So I could definitely identify with what Mona was talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it was in Mona's church, and like Mona's church with her mom. That's where I met Mona. Everyone was family except me
Yeah. Mm,
and my other friend, who also is from New York. Everyone else was family. So it was and it was a small church, and I appreciate, and I that church, like she said, her husband is such a man of faith, and I learned so much just being in that church for the time that I was there. That church is the church that prayed for me when I shared in the last episode about
oh, okay. Yes, yes.
that church. It was Mona.
Was
Her
she the one you called? Oh, her
mom
mom.
was the mom that I called. My son went and stayed with her.
Oh, wow.
The only ones I would trust to give Curtis to.
Oh, wow.
So we have, that connection. And I really believe that it was that church that really and those people that God used to really save my life.
Mm,
They were prayer, and they were talking about faith. He taught about faith 6 months prior to all of that happening to me. And so it was a good time for me to learn so much about the Bible. And I learned so much about people in church.
yeah.
you know you just get to see. And I at that time I also was serving in the back of the church with her mom as her armor bearer and her executive assistant. So you see things
Hmm.
when you see people's behavior. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, we are still in church, people.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's just you just realize oh, okay, people are
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
I think that's the thing too that, keeps a lot of young people from sharing, because as a kid, I thought Christian adults were perfect. I thought that they did everything right. So
Mhm.
when you get older and you see they don't, and you're exposed to some of the things that go on even amongst church people, you're like, what? All this time I was like over here feeling so, whatever, convicted. And it's like, man, you're human, and that's when you learn, okay, I have to do this me and God's way.
That's right. That's
Me
right.
and God's way.
For you and God, work it out. That's why I'm always saying it's not about, and I think COVID has really shown us.
Hmm.
I really believe that God really used that time to show people, like, you were idolizing going to church on Sundays to a building where
Mm,
I wasn't even welcomed. Like, you didn't even properly usher me in.
yeah.
You just showed here. You were just more concerned about showing up to the church to where you knew,
Showing up, I sit
you
in
knew
this seat every Sunday.
paying attention, or you don't even know the scriptures, or what did that man or woman of God say, or anything. It became, and some, for some people, depending on what churches you go to, how big or small, it became a social networking thing.
Yeah.
You just went in and wanted to make sure your friends were there. And I know for me, leaving the small church, it was a small church, and then I went to a big church. And at one point it was like, this church is too daggone big.
Mhm.
I don't have nobody. But that was like God using that for me to be like, you ain't here for
For
nobody but me.
yeah.
Like, you don't come here on Sundays. And it took me it was a shaking, like, no, you ain't coming here for nobody
Yeah.
but,
I
and
think we need those periods, because I know for me, when I went to Grace, I was like, look, I'm gonna go to church and I'm gonna leave out, and it wasn't until I joined the small group near the end, right, almost right before I moved, that I even connected with anyone. I didn't know anybody in that church.
Mhm.
But I feel like I needed that time where it was just like, okay, it's just me and you, God, because it's easy to get caught up, especially in a big church, and who and like that type of thing, what clique you're in and those type
Click.
of things.
Oh,
Those big churches can become very cliquish. I'm not, saying they're bad thing, those type of churches. However, it can become that way. So we really have to I feel like God has really been challenging me to evaluate my motives in everything that I do.
yeah.
Like, are you doing this for what type of attention are you trying to draw?
Right.
Who are you trying to impress? Are you doing this because I told you to? So I think that that's something that God has definitely done in this season, where we've been forced to watch TV. We're all bedside Baptists right now. Many of us, some people have gone back to church. But I was just sharing on a prayer call this morning. I woke up in the middle of the night and I turned on a church sermon, and I just, for the last almost maybe like 8, 9 months, almost a year, have not really been able to like receive a word. Like, I think I've had two messages that really hit me, but like I'll sit and I'll watch the sermon and I forget I'm even watching it. Like, I'm just not receiving it.
Mhm.
And something that somehow, I haven't watched her in so long, but somehow, because usually YouTube will just pop up the stuff that you normally watch. Joyce Meyer popped up, and like, Joyce Meyer, I feel like, is the foundation of my Christianity. Like, that was where I started, I feel like.
The
And I
root.
watched her, and like, I'm everything she's saying, I'm writing down. Like blessed me tremendously this morning. And I feel like that's what this season has been for me too, is getting back to my roots. Like I said, like at first, in the early stages, I was so like, I would sit down every Sunday and watch the word, but for the past few months, whatever, it's been hard. And I was even having trouble like reading the Bible. Like, I would find myself thinking about a million other things while I'm trying to read the Bible. So I went back to reading Bible plans, and that kind of grasped my attention a little more. So all the foundational things that I used to do is kind of what God drew me back to. And I could easily think like, I'm beyond that, like I should be able to read the word and get a word myself. Like, God should speak to me specifically through these scriptures. But God was like, you ain't never too good to get back to the basics. You're never too above the foundation. And so, yeah, that was where he had me and where he has me right now. And man, Joyce Meyer, I call her Auntie Joyce,
Hmm.
is blessing me right now.
Yeah. The
Mm,
same here. I think, I don't know. I think for me, it's been like I still haven't found my rhythm yet.
yeah.
I was in a,
That was just today. It's like it was
yeah.
just one day, like that one time we were on here on the after show, we were talking about worship. And I was worshiping for a good week. And then I
It's
was
gone.
like, what happened? Come on, come back.
Yeah, I
But
have to.
my mind is just going in a million different directions.
I don't know if it's sometimes, like I think I said to myself, like, maybe I'm too hard on myself for
Yeah.
expecting things to be a certain way when
Yeah.
God is like, no, you're evolving, you're growing, and it's okay. Like, I struggle with, I can hear God's voice through books and authors that he sends to me, but I told him, I just told him this yesterday. I really just want to hear you for you.
Yeah.
Like, I want to just sit here and hear you.
Talk to me. Yeah.
And I went, well, that wasn't yesterday because when I was driving the other day, Joyce Myers, same thing for me. Like, I haven't, Joyce was, I had every study Bible she ever wrote. Every time the woman had a book offering, I was
Hey.
donations and getting my free book with it. And I mean, I love Joyce. Like, she's on my bucket list. I need to meet her before,
Yeah.
you know. And so when I was driving from Kentucky, I don't know, the stupid GPS wasn't working because I was in these mountains, and I wound up getting on podcast and she started playing.
Wow.
It was just and I was just like, it's like you said, it's just like that refreshing drink
Yeah.
of like, this is what I needed. I was
Mm-hmm.
amening and I was like having a little church service in my car. Um, but yeah, it's just like, I guess sometimes we can just be so hard. I know I can be really hard on myself. And I think that's the enemy trying to make me think that I'm not serving God in the way
Yeah.
that I should be. When God is like, did I complain? Did I say anything to you?
Yeah.
I see you. I know your schedule. You're reading your Bible. You're listening to worship music. You're worshiping me again, and you're talking to me all day long. And I think we talked about this the last time. And it's like, sometimes because we're so used to
Yeah.
trying something new, because it's uncomfortable a little bit. And that's the enemy trying to make us think that you're out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
You're not being a good daughter, you
Yeah.
know, like, really? I'm not? Okay, I must not be,
Right.
and condemn, 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 condemn.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still haven't gotten my morning routine down since this new year started. I still
Yeah.
have
And
struggled.
that's the thing, because I desire that so much, but I feel like God doesn't desire that for me right now. It's like I want routine. Like I
Hey,
I want it, and God's like, nope, today I want you to do this. Tomorrow I want you to do that. And it's just like, but you can't fight it. And I think that's what we have to stop doing. Stop trying to fight it and stop trying to revert back to what we're used to, like you said. Because God will do new things in us daily, like God speaks to us differently daily, just like, because we're evolving and we're changing. So he has to evolve and change in our relationship with him. And I think we just desire some type of normalcy. Like everybody can't wait for things to get back to normal. And God's like, things are changing,
yeah,
like things are changing, and be ready to change with those. Like I'm shifting things up. I need you to be ready to go, in whatever direction I'm moving you. So,
yeah. That's just a little. Just it's like I was just thinking as you're saying that, like, I don't want to go back and eat baby food. Do you want to eat baby food? I can't. I sometimes try these little kids' baby stuff. Horrible,
mm-hmm.
horrible.
Like, how do you eat this?
Don't eat that. So if it's, and I think if it's this way, like, if we as adults are not gonna try, are you gonna start crawling on the floor in your house? Are you gonna like start going on yourself? No, hope not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so it's like, well, why don't we try to get back to, because the scripture talks about, there's a time for when you drink milk, and there's a time when you eat steak.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no going back to the milk. I mean, that possibly could happen when you get in your 70s, God willing, maybe. I don't know. My mom still eats steak, and so, she's not drinking milk. But I don't know. I just know that, like, I gotta stop trying to go back to something that it's and think that it's better for me when God is like, no, keep going forward.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep showing you. Yes, we take those principles and those, I guess, knowings or whatever, but
Yeah.
not try to live in that. I don't know. Or, I mean, but in the world nowadays, we got these adult coloring books. I have one here. I don't know where it is. But, so now we're going back. I spend time coloring. I spend time like relaxing and getting in. So maybe I'm over talking myself here in these things. But I think, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't know. I think that we just have to be willing to go with the flow.
I
And
think
I
so
think
too.
that religion teaches us to be structured and be routine, but relationship is now teaching us that that's not how it goes. Just like, who was I listening to? Joyce Meyer this morning, Joyce Meyer, and she was saying how her daughter had a lot of things to do, and she was supposed to do something with her, but she told her, no, you need to handle all of your responsibilities. And so the next day she talked to her daughter and was like, did you get everything done? And she was like, no, because her daughter came over and she decided it was more important to spend time with her, you know? And I feel like that is the way relationships work, We might be, today I'm going to fast and pray, or today I'm going to read this chapter, but God's like, you know what? Drop all that, stop and worship.
Right.
And you
Right.
have to be willing to say, no, but no, I have it in my calendar right here. I'm going to read this script. No, I told you to stop and worship. This is more important today. You know, her daughter was more important to her that day. So those are the things that we have to do in relationships in life. And we have to treat our relationship with God in the same way.
Yeah, I think like you're saying, it's like to be present
Be present.
and
Be
not try
present.
to control things
Yeah.
because we don't control, like, I always just look at like our relationships and like you're saying, it's like I know when I go hang out with my girlfriends or you and I when we go if we go out, it's not really controlled.
Yeah.
We kind of have an idea where we're gonna do or what we're gonna, but the conversations aren't controlled. The interactions between each other are not controlled. So why are we so always trying to control God and put him in a box where he's like, I don't fit in this thing. I don't
Oh, fit.
like I told those people to take me out of the tabernacle, that little box that they try to keep me in. They wanna
Mm-hmm.
put me in. It's like on Saturday I went to a Catholic church. I haven't been to a church all year. I haven't been to a church all year, but of course I go to Catholic church. I have all places on Saturday. Um, I had to talk to myself in the church because I had to say, hello, this is a church. Because I've been out of church for so long, and because it's not a church of my denomination, which is non denominational, I was just like, I was just observing people and like, really? This is this is how you guys this is what you guys do? Like, really? And I catch myself like, oh God, I'm in church. I am judging people right in church, like forgive me. And I started like repenting and just talking to God, like, this is your house of worship, whether I believe it or not. These people believe that this is where, and they were talking about the box because they have the box with the communion and stuff like that. I don't really understand the Catholic Church too much, and I was just like, huh. He was talking about the communion for kids for first communion, and he was saying something about the box.
Yeah.
Like when you come into the church and you see the box and you know God is there and da da da, and I'm like, he's
Yeah, I did the same thing. That's when I really realized I had an issue when I was trying to watch the first sermon. That wasn't Joyce Meyer, I won't say it was, but I was judging. I was judging some of the things that were going on on the stage. And I was just like, hold up. I'm supposed to be trying to get a word. And I'm talking about the stuff the pastor is doing, saying, what he's wearing. Like, And it's like, Lord, forgive me, and let me go listen to Joyce because I'm not focusing, and maybe God wants me to go in another direction, to a word that He really has for me. So,
Same here, same here. And I was trying to like, hey, like, I was just like, what is going on right now? Like when the priest, whatever he was talking about, I was like, what is he talking about right now?
hmm
And I'm looking around and I'm, anybody else like,
hmm
what is he talking about right now? And I don't know.
yeah,
So, I
yeah,
left there and just was like, okay, God, I am sorry
yeah. And he
being
knows,
present in
he
your.
knows. We have to, work to do better, but He knows.
He knows, and that's a good thing. For me, I know, like, I give myself a hard time, but today I got a word. I read these devotionals every morning that I get, and this new devotional, especially me coming off of that retreat last week, and then I went to Shenandoah this weekend, and then God did speak to me. So I said, oh, before I said He doesn't talk to me, but He did. He did tell me something and tell me about the mountains because I was saying, why do you have me driving in these mountains?
Mhm.
And I realized this is another mountain that I'm driving in, and I am in like I could turn around right now because it's raining. Like I don't need to be in this mountain. And I asked him like, why do you have me here? And he kind of he said like, I'm trying to take you so you can see that this is where you need to be. This is where you are going to be from now on. This is the view that you will be having now. I had gotten out of my car and I was looking out at one of the overlooks and was just looking down and just seeing like how high I was. I think I was like elevation 4,300 and something. Um, and that's what he said to me. And I was just like, wow, like realizing how far I have come over the last few years and all of the work and everything. And it's like, oh wow. And he said like, you're just rushing. You and this is the thing I got, and I didn't really say this, and I want to say it here. So often struggling through the valley experiences, they feel like forever. And then when I get to the top of my mountain, I'm like, oh, nice view. Okay, gotta go. Rather than sitting here and enjoying the view.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's raining. So what? Like I had a hood on, I had a hat on and whatever. And I had gone to a few overlooks and he said it twice. And I was like, oh, you're right. Like, why am I rushing? Where do I have to go?
yeah,
Just be present.
yeah,
Be present in this moment. I worked so hard to get to this moment, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, yep, I see it.
there
Gotta
it is.
go.
Yeah,
Done. And so it was just really. And then when I got home, I think I read Jesus Calling that night because I usually read in the morning, and it talked about stop rushing. I literally laughed out loud because I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "Stop rushing and sit still."
mm,
Like, wow, this is
mm.
to me on the mountain, and now you're saying it to me right before I'm going to bed. Okay, God, I hear you. I hear you. You
And
know,
it's such a good analogy too, because I feel like we always are talking about before COVID, but especially before COVID, we were very much a never satisfied group of people, where that we always wanted the next thing. We always, we accomplished something and it's like, okay, what's next? It's like you get to the top of the mountain, you're like, okay, there it is. Let me climb a little bit higher, and it's like God just like, what are you rushing? What are you stressed for? Just for you to look and get back to what you were doing again, like if you are going to be working towards something, at least stop, breathe
enjoy,
it in, enjoy it.
or at least sit here as long as it took you.
As long as it took you to get up this mountain.
Get up this, sit there as that long.
hmm
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's where I am right now. Now I am like being present is something that my counselor has told me, like, you got to be present, be present, be present. So I was
hmm
like, okay, I'm being present.
hmm
So I had packed a sandwich or whatever. And on the way down, I stopped at another overlook and I was like, oh, I have a sandwich and some snacks. I'm just going to sit here and be present and just see if he'll talk to me again. But he didn't. So, and then when I got home, I read that in the book. But It is encouraging. And so now my prayer is, why can't you just talk to me when I want to just sit down?
Mhm. Mhm.
You're not saying anything.
I'm gonna talk to you when I'm ready. When you're ready.
You know, and that's when he's ready at 3:15 in the morning when he's waking me up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm like, not now. I'm not ready. I am
Right.
ready. I need
That's
my
like a friend calling you at 3:30 just to talk. But
yeah.
it's the conversation is a
But
good
if a friend called
conversation.
you at 3:30 to talk, you'd answer the phone.
You'd answer the phone because you'd be like, something must be up. I need to hear what they have to say. Yeah,
Right. What's going on? Don't
yeah,
call me at 3 something in the morning because my phone ringer stays off.
mine too. That's why I was like, I might not answer, but yeah.
You know, and I won't see the light because I sleep with a sleeping mask. So and I keep it face down. I don't want to see the light.
I love it. I love it. No, this was so good. Definitely, definitely needed
Oh,
the conversation with Mona. So
yeah.
yeah,
Gotta get the book, people. I'm gonna send you this book. Um,
I
this
like to hear
was so good, so good. So hope to have her back on and she'll share some more.
for sure. I would love to have them on as a couple too, her and her husband.
Having couples on.
Yeah,
I'm pulling some couples on. That's
that's gonna be good.
gonna be good, I guess, right? I mean, we're two single girls. We're having couples
We'll
on.
have our little
Our lives.
invisible man next to us.
We're speaking into our lives. We're speaking into the life that we will have.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're enjoying where we are. Where
Absolutely.
God wants us to.
I
We're
love having the
enjoying
bed to myself and not
it.
having to get up and
Yeah, yeah,
breakfast or
yeah.
no. I like my
I
single
like
life.
being able to get up and go.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, this was good. Much needed.
Thank you for tuning into the after show.
We will see you
Bye.
next week. Stay tuned.
Yeah.